The world's four largest search engines, Google, Bing, Baidu, and Yandex, all provide webmaster accounts. These are consoles in which webmasters and site owners can submit information about their sites and in return get information about their sites. In the case of Google and Bing, quite significant information. Site owners can, in effect, see what the search engine knows about the site. As you've already learned, Yahoo gets its search results from Bing, so Yahoo no longer has a webmaster account. So what can these webmaster accounts do for you? Well, the original purpose for the webmaster accounts was to allow site owners to submit their XML sitemaps to the search engines, which we looked at earlier in this course. But they also allow them to set up some configuration information, such as defining what country the website targets and informing the search engine that the preferred domain name begins with www. A webmaster account may also be used as a communication channel. Google, for instance, may send messages to the webmaster through the Google Search Console, even telling the webmaster if it believes SEO tricks are being used to manipulate search rankings for the site. The webmaster console may also provide performance information, telling you how well the search engine is crawling your website and how often, for instance. It may also provide warnings about indexing problems if it's having trouble indexing your site, or if portions of the site are blocked improperly by your robots.txt file. The webmaster console may also provide information on search results, such as how often your site appears in the results, for what keywords, and how often the result is clicked on. But it can also warn you about code optimization problems, such as bad title and description tags. Plus, the system may provide various tools. Google provides a robots.txt tester, for instance, and a fetch tool that can help you see how Google sees the site and also allow you to submit the site to Google for rapid indexing if it's not already indexed. So webmaster consoles are essential for every site, and you really should make sure you sign up for both Google and Bing. Perhaps the most important thing the console can do for you is to allow you to register your XML sitemap. We discussed the XML sitemap earlier in the course in the section on search engine submissions. So why not move on now to the next lesson where you'll see how to use the Google Search Console to register your site and tell Google where it can find your sitemap. In this lesson, we'll begin with how to register your site in the Google Search Console and how to submit your XML sitemaps. I talked earlier in the course about the importance of XML sitemaps and how to create them. So I'll assume that you have your sitemap created already and are ready to tell Google where it is. In fact, you might have multiple sitemaps for documents, images, video, and so on. Begin by logging into the Google Search Console, which you can find here. Once you've logged in, you'll find a box in which you can submit your site's domain name. Then, as I discussed in the earlier lesson on submitting a sitemap, you're going to verify your site. This is just a way to confirm that you have authority over this site, that you own or manage the site. Google provides various mechanisms through which you can prove that you do. If you didn't, the theory goes, you wouldn't be able to upload a text file to the root of the domain, or add a meta tag to the home page, or log into your Google Analytics account or into your Google Tag Manager account. Analytics and Tag Manager, by the way, are advanced subjects, not directly related to SEO. If you have them, you know you do. If you don't worry about it. So in this example, I downloaded the HTML verification file, a little .html file that contains a unique identifying code. I can take this file and load it into the root of my website. Once it's there, I can come back and click this link to confirm that the file actually is there. As you can see, the file will load in another tab. I'll see the file on my site and the content of the file, Google Site Verification, followed by the name of the file, which has the unique code. Now I know for sure I didn't make a mistake and the file is there, I can tell Google to verify it. Google will try to load the file. Once it's found it, Google knows I have control over the site and will be willing to provide me with information about my site. I haven't quite finished though. I still need to tell Google where my XML sitemap is stored. As I've explained before, in most cases, people put the sitemap in the root of the site, the same directory as the home page, and they generally call it sitemap.xml. But there's no law saying you have to do that. You can put it wherever you want, and call it whatever you want. So I need to tell Google where it is. So I'm going to click on Continue, which takes me into the console. I'll then go into the Crawl menu and click the Sitemaps option, then go across to the Add/Test Sitemap button and click. I'll enter the name of the sitemap and click Test, and Google checks the sitemap to make sure it looks okay. It does in this case. Now, Google will probably add the sitemap at the same time it tested it, but just in case, I'm going to go back and enter it again and then click Submit. And that's it. The sitemap has been submitted. You may have to do this several times, of course, to submit your various sitemaps. That was simple enough, eh? You registered your site and submitted your sitemap. Now Google knows you're responsible for this site, so it can give you the information about the site. And it knows where your sitemap is, so it can use it to help with indexing. Remember, you'll want that sitemap to either update automatically when pages are added, or perhaps you'll have to rebuild it manually. Refer back to the section on submitting to the search engines. So you may already have submitted your sitemap, but if not, you might want to go do it now, then come back and we'll continue looking at the Google Search Console. Once you've registered your site and submitted the URL, there's more setup work to do. So in this lesson, I'm going to quickly explain the various ways you can configure your site within the Search Console. You can do this individually through the various menus, but when you first set up your account, you should go into the Messages area, and Google will provide you with a to-do list of setup issues. Keep an eye on the Messages area. This area of the Search Console can sometimes contain important messages from Google about your site, such as indexing problems, and even if Google thinks you may be playing SEO tricks, or perhaps if you have bad links pointing to your site. When you first register, though, you'll see this message. Open it, and you'll find a to-do list suggesting the different things you should do to complete setting up your site. The first thing that Google suggests is that you enter your website twice, once with www and once without. Actually, you should really enter all versions. This helps Google avoid confusion. It will now know all the different versions are really the same site. So you might need to also add HTTPS versions as well as HTTP versions. Next, Google also suggests that you set your preferred domain version. Click this button to open the Site Settings area, where you can see that by default the www version is selected, and that's the way you'll generally want to leave it. It just tells Google that if it sees a URL without the www, it should also assume it's the same as the www URL. As you can see, you can also limit how fast Google crawls your site, but unless you have some kind of good reason to change this, just leave it alone. You can also select the target country. Click the Choose Country button to go to the International Targeting area. The first tab in this case is telling me that I have no hreflang tags, but that's okay. Not all sites need them. I'll discuss this issue later in a lesson on optimizing your site for particular locations. Under the Country tab, I can tell Google if I'm targeting people in a particular country. If you have an international market, you would want to leave this unchecked, of course. We also have the option to allow co-workers, other people with Google accounts, to access the Google Search Console, and also to submit a sitemap, a subject we covered in the previous video, of course. Finally, we have a button that takes us to more information about working with the Search Console. That's about it for setup, but there's plenty more to know about the Search Console. You might want to take a few minutes right now, though, to get your site set up properly. Add the www and non-www versions, and HTTPS versions if necessary, and perhaps set your country. Then come back and we'll see what else the Google Search Console can do for you. Now we're going to take a look at the Google Console Search Appearance menu to see what this area of the system can tell you. This area, as the name suggests, is related to how your listings appear in the search results. Let's start by clicking this little I button at the end of the menu name. This opens up an example pane showing you the different parts of a search result. Clicking on each item opens a box that describes what the component is and links to more information about that component. Just a handy little reminder of what's what. Now, if we click the Search Appearance menu, we see the Structured Data, Data Highlighter, HTML improvements, and site links options. As you can see, Google has not detected structured data on this site, so it just shows information about what structured data is and how to use it. This is a subject we covered earlier in this course. Google actually provides a tool accessed by clicking the data highlighter option, with which you can manually tag components on your pages to tell Google what they are, even if you're not using structured data markup. The HTML improvements option loads a page in which Google makes suggestions on how you can improve some of the site's on-page optimization and how many pages seem to have problems, such as pages that are missing title tags or have duplicate title tags, pages with meta description tags that are too long or too short, and so on. It may also warn you if it's having problems indexing your site for some reason. Finally, the Site Links option, where you can tell Google not to use certain pages as site links in your search results. The site links are the small extra links that sometimes appear in the search results. If you've noticed an inappropriate page appearing, you can block it in the Site Links page of the Google Search Console. You might want to take a moment to review your site's search appearance area to see, for instance, if Google's suggesting any improvements to your title and description tags. Now we'll take a look at how the search traffic area of the Google Search Console can help you. This area is all about how your site performs in relation to traffic coming to the site, such as search queries that may return pages from your site in the Google search results and links to your site. The Search Analytics option shows information about search queries for which your site was returned in the results and which ones get clicked on, and you can modify these results to view them in various ways, such as viewing the number of impressions, the number of times your site appeared in the search results, the position in the results, filtering by the location of the searches, the type of device being used to search, and so on. In the Links to your site area, you can see what sites are linking to you and to what pages. You can download this information in a CSV spreadsheet format if you want, or load it directly into Google Docs. The Internal Links option shows you information about links within your site, how many to each page, and where the links come from. Now, here's what you really want to see in the Manual Actions area. A manual action is when Google has penalized your site in some way because it believes you've played some kind of SEO trick. If you have a manual action against your site, you'll see the information here. We already saw the International Targeting area, where you can define the country your site is targeting, in an earlier lesson. And finally, the Mobile Usability area, where Google provides information about how mobile-friendly your site is, a subject we covered early in this course. So that's the search traffic menu. Spend a little time digging around in here and see what you can find. In particular, the Search Analytics area and links to your site are pretty interesting. And with luck and some sensible SEO, you'll never see anything in the Manual Actions area. In this lesson, we'll take a quick look at the index area of the Search Console, an area of the system where you can see the status of and possible problems with the information about your site that Google has in its search index. We'll start with the index status. This area shows you basic information about the pages that Google has for this site in the index, both today and over time. Initially, you'll see the number of pages on the site that are indexed, but click the Advanced button and you can also see how many pages are blocked by your robots.txt file or robots meta tags, a subject we've looked at earlier in the course, and how many pages you've requested to have removed from the index. The Content Keywords option shows you keywords in your pages that are frequently repeated. You can click on a keyword to see where Google found the term and the variants of the term, plurals, possessives, past tenses, and so on. The Blocked Resources area is going to show you if anything Google thinks it should have access to has been blocked by robots.txt, components such as JavaScript, CSS, it's cascading style sheets, or images. Google needs these things to index the site properly. Finally, the Remove URLs area. This is where you can request that Google stops indexing a particular page. For instance, if for some reason you have to take a page off the site, perhaps for a legal reason, you can remove the page from the site and remove the URL here to ensure that Google takes it out of the index more quickly than it normally would. If you want to block a page that is going to remain on the site, though, the preferred method is to also block it using robots.txt or the robots meta tag. You might want to take a few moments now to review this information for your site. Is anything accidentally blocked? Does Google have all the pages in the index it should? This area of the Search Console provides a quick way to uncover problems. The Google Console crawl area is another place you can uncover problems with your website. So in this lesson, I'll explain what's there and what it can do for you. Starting in the crawl errors area, we can see just that, problems that Google's search bots encountered when crawling your site, when trying to download pages from your site. The three boxes at the top show possible errors stopping the system reaching the site: DNS, domain name system errors, server connectivity errors, and problems downloading the robots.txt file. Now, don't worry about these labels. The labels describe the possible problem, not the status. As long as you have these green circles with check marks in them, you're fine. Then below, we see problems with specific pages on your site for both computers trying to reach the site and smartphones. In this case, we can see that although Google is trying to reach certain pages that are missing, the server isn't returning the proper error of 404. You can fix problems you find in this table and then tell Google it's been fixed. Okay, the crawl stats area. This shows you how many pages Google crawled on your site over time, the size of the pages downloaded, and the average time it took to download a page. You can check this area for anomalies. For instance, if you see that Google suddenly stopped indexing your site, you might have been penalized if you're playing SEO tricks. Of course, you'd also want to look in the messages area and the manual actions option in the search traffic menu. Or perhaps there are server problems that were blocking Google. Fetch as Google is a neat little tool. You can use this to ask Google to grab a page from your site and see how Google sees it, either the raw HTML it's pulled or a rendered page. Enter a path into the text box and then select the kind of fetch you want, a regular desktop computer fetch or a fetch for a mobile device. You can then click the Fetch button to have Google just grab the code, or Fetch and Render if you want to see how Google sees the page. It may take a few moments for Google to retrieve the page. Once it has, you can click on the entry. Here's an example of the raw HTML code that Google fetched. And here's an example of a page that Google actually rendered, showing what it looks like to Google and what it looks like to the user. You can also submit the page to the Google index if it isn't already in there. You can submit up to 500 individual pages each month, or 10 pages if you want Google to also index the pages linked to from that page. Google will actually go index the page very quickly, so this is a good way to get a new site indexed. Let's take a look at the robots.txt tester. Remember, we discussed robots.txt earlier in the course. When you load the tester, it shows your current robots.txt file. If this area is blank, it's because either it can't find the file, it should be in the root directory, the same directory as your home page, or perhaps you only just uploaded the file and Google hasn't yet gone looking for it. So here's a quick tip. To get Google to load the robots.txt file you just loaded, click the Submit button, then the blue Submit button at the bottom of this dialog box. Then wait a few minutes while Google gets the file and reload the page. Over on the right we have this link. Click it to see your actual live robots.txt file if you want. It'll open in a new browser tab. So the tester shows the content of your robots.txt file. The tester may display warnings. You can see here there's a warning on the last line because sitemap has been mistyped, sitemap. Remember, this is the line telling search engines where your sitemap is, as we saw in an earlier lesson. So I can edit that, change it to sitemap, and the error goes away. Now let's edit the disallow line. I'm going to test at the bottom of the page to see if the system can reach my home page. Of course, I can enter the path of a particular page in the text box if I wish to see if the robots.txt file is blocking a particular area. I can even pick the particular Google bot I'm concerned about, the regular organic index Google bot, the Google bot used to retrieve news, the one for images or video, and so on. Then I click the button and the tester warns me that I have a mistake in my code. So I'll fix the problem and test again. Now it's fine. Okay, so I've fixed my robots file. Now what? Well, I'll click the Submit button. I'll click the Download button and Google will download a text file with the modified robots.txt content onto my computer. I can upload the file to my website and then click the View Uploaded Version button to open the current robots.txt file in a new browser tab just to check it, just so I can make sure I uploaded it properly. Then I can click the Submit button to have Google go retrieve it. In a few minutes I can reload the page to see the updated file in the tester. We've seen the sitemaps area in an earlier lesson when I submitted a sitemap to Google. This area shows information about the different sitemaps you've submitted. Remember, you can have different types for web pages, images, video and so on. It will also show you how many of the files in the sitemap have been indexed. Finally, the URL parameters. This area provides a way to tell Google to ignore certain URL parameters such as session IDs to avoid Google indexing duplicate content. This is a pretty advanced subject though and dangerous to use unless you really know what you're doing, and also not the sort of thing most people taking this course are going to fool with. I might post an advanced lesson on this subject at some point, but for now we're going to skip ahead. So that's the Search Console crawl area. It contains some pretty interesting information and tools. You might want to take a few minutes now and review your site in here. In particular, check for crawl errors and make sure your robots.txt file isn't causing any problems. There are a couple of other areas in the Google Search Console you'll need to know about, though we can skip through this pretty quickly. Firstly, there's the security area. This only comes into play if your site gets hacked and malware gets placed on it. You may have seen warnings from Google now and then when you click on a search result. Perhaps you've seen this kind of thing now and then. If you do get hacked, you'll see information in this page explaining how to deal with it. As for the other resources area, we have a variety of tools and information. At the top, we have tools to help you with structured data markup, a subject we covered in an earlier lesson. There's also Google My Business, which is used to get businesses that serve a particular city or region into Google Maps and the local Google search results. This is a subject we'll be covering in a later lesson. Google Merchant Center is where you can submit your products to the Google Shopping search results, but this is an advertising technique not covered in this course. Page Speed Insights is a useful little tool that will check your website to see how quickly it loads and provide suggestions to you for fixes. Custom Search is where you go if you want to add a Google-powered search system to your website. We also discussed this in the lesson on structured data markup, because if you have one of these set up on your site, then a search box may sometimes appear in the search results under your listing. Finally, Google Domains, where you can register domain names through Google, and Webmaster Academy, a training area. And don't forget the settings, which are hidden away, easily missed, up here. We have Search Console Preferences, where you set up the language and email notifications. We've seen the site settings in an earlier lesson. You use it to define your preferred domain, generally the www form, and perhaps the rate at which Google will crawl your site, though in general you shouldn't change this. The Change of Address area provides instructions to help keep Google updated if you move your site to another domain name. The Google Analytics property area allows you to associate your Webmaster account with your Google Analytics account so that Analytics can import Search Console data and you can link from the Search Console to the Analytics account. Users and property owners allows you to define who can work in the Search Console. You can set up different types of account, restricting some users from some actions. Verification details shows you information about how and when your site was verified in the Search Console, a subject we looked at earlier in this section of the course. And the Associates area provides a mechanism to link a Google Plus account to a website, though this seems to be a little used and perhaps not yet finished feature. So there you have it, the Google Search Console. It really does provide a great deal of very useful information, and every site owner really should be using it. And don't forget Bing. Bing provides many similar features, and of course Bing feeds search results to Yahoo, so combined Bing and Yahoo provide a very significant portion of the search results being fed to searchers every day. As you saw earlier in the course, when we were dissecting the search results, you'll often find local results on the search results page. Search for Indian restaurant and the search engine will return information about Indian restaurants in your area, even in India, ironically perhaps. These local results are critical in many cases. When the search engines decide that the searcher is looking for local resources, restaurants, plumbers, lawyers, different types of stores and so on, they retrieve and display the information in a different way. So in this section of the course, you're going to learn about local search results. I'll explain how the search engines figure out where you are, even if you don't tell them, and I'll explain where this local content comes from. It comes out of two different types of index. And I'll also explain what you need to do in order to have your business appear within these local results. If your business serves a specific geographic location or region, then local search will be important to you. The major search engines all provide local results in some contexts. If you search for something that the search engines think is a local search, you'll get local results. Search for pizza, personal injury attorney, shoe store, plumber, or movie theatres, and Google, Yahoo, and Bing all show you results in your area. I'll explain in the following lesson how they figure out where you are. These results are incorporated into the search engine's mapping systems. All three have maps, of course. So you'll often see maps incorporated into the search results page, not all the time and not for all searches. In fact, at the time I recorded this lesson, Google had reduced the frequency with which it displayed maps. Still, all three systems do provide links to a larger map. Now, elsewhere in this course, I've often ignored Yahoo because Yahoo gets its search results from Bing. But a lot of Yahoo's local results come from its own local business directory, which is a moneymaker for Yahoo, so I guess they don't want to give it up. I'll show you how to get into the three local directories in a later lesson. In fact, in all three cases, local search results come from two places. They come from the organic index, the search index created by the Google and Bing search bots, crawling the web and gathering pages. Look at these results, for instance. I didn't use any location keywords in my search, but Bing knew I was in Denver and so fed me some Denver-related organic results. As far as the organic results go, Yahoo is relying on Bing, of course. But local search results are also coming out of the search engine's local business indexes. Google has something currently called Google My Business, though they seem to change the name every few months. Bing has Bing Places for Business, and Yahoo has Yahoo Local. So on the search results pages, you'll see these lists of businesses, and clicking on a business can take you to detailed information about that business. Here's an example. But if the information in the local indexes doesn't come from the search bots, where does it come from? The information originally came from business directories with which the search engines had partnerships. Thus, right from the start, the search engines had information about millions of businesses and their locations. However, the search engines now allow, and in fact encourage, businesses to take control of their listings and submit information. We'll be looking at that in a later lesson. So much of the information now comes directly from the business owners, although most businesses still have not taken control. Of course, you are not going to make that mistake. So local information comes from two places, from the organic index and from the local business directory, and you'll have to deal with each differently. I'll be explaining how to work with these two things separately in later lessons. Why not spend a few minutes digging around in the local results? Search for the sort of services or products you provide and figure out if you're in the results for your location. Check out your competition and see how your position can improve. How do search engines actually know where you are? If you're in Denver, for instance, and you search for pizza, how do the search engines know to show you results from Denver? One way, of course, is to tell the search engines where you are. If you search for Pizza Denver or Denver Pizza Parlor, that's a pretty good clue. I'm in Denver, Colorado right now, And if I just search for the word pizza, I get results from Denver. But if I search for pizza Chichester, West Sussex, I get very different results in a very different part of the world. The particular search engine you use also provides clues regarding what you're looking for. If I search google.co.uk, Google in the United Kingdom, or google.de, Google in Germany, I'm going to get different results. That's all pretty obvious, but when I'm using google.com in Denver, how does Google know I'm in Denver when I haven't told it so, if I just search for the word pizza? Well, it's going to base my location on my IP number, my Internet Protocol number. Every connection to the Internet has an IP number. Every web server, for instance, every cable service router, and so on. That's how the Internet is able to send information back and forth, using IP numbers as identifiers, as street addresses in effect. IP numbers are unique, and every connection in the world has one of these unique identifiers. For example, here's the IP number of my router. These numbers change, so the number may be different next week or next month, but for the moment, this is the number. How do I know this? Well, I asked Google. Just search for the term, "What is my IP?" and Google will tell you. How does Google know? Well, when you press enter, your computer sends a message to Google asking for information. And every time a computer requests information, it sends its IP number, so the computer receiving the request knows where to send the information. Google only knows your IP number because your computer told it the number, and Google just shows you the information it received. I can ask Bing too, and it'll tell me. I can also look up that number on a system such as DNS Stuff and get a trace route. I'll be shown the hops down towards my router, though not all the way. It'll show me as far as it can get, which is generally to a server that connects to my router. In this case, it traces all the way to a server owned by Comcast, the cable TV company, in Denver. Pretty close. There are some systems that get a little closer. For example, I can go to ip2location.com, a company that sells location data, and they'll show me where they think my specific IP number is located. They'll even give me the latitude and longitude of an exact point. They think I'm a little south of Denver in Littleton, which is close but no cigar. I'm actually closer to the center of Denver. In the past, they've managed to get much closer to my true location, within about a mile or so. Google is using a different data set, though. If I ask Google, "Where am I?" Google, quite sensibly, won't provide a specific point, but it does show an area map, and it thinks I'm in an area of Denver. I'm actually just slightly outside the area shown, a few blocks, but it's close. So that's how the search engines figure out location. It's not 100% accurate. In some cases, depending on how one connects to the internet, the location shown can be way off the mark. But in most cases, it's pretty good. A couple more Google things to know. You can actually tell Google where you are by going into search settings and changing the location. So if Google can't figure it out from your IP number, you can tell it your exact location if you want. Also, here's something spooky. If you have an Android phone associated with your Google account, go to this URL. You need to be logged into your Google account, of course. If you are, what you see may really spook you. As you've seen, some of the information provided for local searches comes straight from the organic index. If you enter local search terms such as electrician, plumber, or Indian restaurant, some of the results you'll see will come from the organic or free index, the index created by the search bots. So in this lesson, we'll look at how to optimize your website's pages for local terms. The first thing you should do is make sure that your pages are declaring the correct language in the head section. Problems can occur when templates are copied from libraries and the language declarations are not changed. The search engines are aware that this is a problem, so it's hard to say how much of a problem it might cause you, but you might as well get it right. First, check the HTML tag at the top of the page. There should be a language attribute, lang, though it often isn't used. If your pages are in English, you'll need EN in there, if French, FR, and so on. You can find these codes using a search for HTML language codes. However, the lang attribute can be modified to add a dash and a 2-character country code. So for English, for instance, you could use these for the United States, Great Britain, Canada, and Australia. You may also find a content-language meta tag, something like this, but this is old and in fact was never really an approved tag within the HTML specification and was used very inconsistently by browsers and search bots. So you can remove this, but should use the language attribute on the HTML tag instead. There's also something called the hreflang tag. This is used when you provide different translated content for people in different areas of the world. Most sites don't really need to worry about this, but if it sounds like you do, I'd suggest you check out this article in Google. So how are we now going to tell the search engines that your business is in a particular location, Denver or Chichester or Detroit or wherever? Well, the first thing to do is put your address in every page on your site. You might put it in the footer of every page, though actually higher up on the page is better. Perhaps have it in the header or maybe an address box near the top, not just in your Contact Us page, but every page. We want the search engines to not be able to miss the fact that you're in a particular location, and we want to make sure that your location name appears in conjunction with the regular keywords in your pages. Use the full address, including postal code and the phone number. If you have multiple locations, then perhaps have a large address box with the various addresses. You'll still want a contact page, of course, but you'll want a separate Contact Us page for each of your business's locations with the full address and telephone number. And make sure you have important keywords on the Contact Us pages. If you're a plumber, you don't want your Contact Us page to merely contain your address, but you should also include keywords describing your services, for instance. Most chains do this these days. They have separate pages for all their locations. You can also put your location into your URLs, your title tags, and your description tags. And when you're out building links, as explained later in this course, you'll want to include location names in the anchor text of links. You don't want links that simply say plumbing services, for instance. You want links that say plumbing services Denver or Phoenix Plumbing and so on. You might actually try optimizing a specific page for each of your locations, making sure that the relevant keywords appear throughout in all the correct places. If you have a pizza parlor in Detroit, then you can use the keywords Detroit Pizza in the URL, title, description tags, H1 headings, scattered throughout the page, in links within your site pointing to the page, and so on. All the regular keyword optimization techniques described earlier in this course. You might also want to use the geo-meta tags. It's not clear which search engines use these. Google says it doesn't, but Bing may. However, they're very easily created and so can be dropped into your pages quickly. You simply find a geotag tool, enter your address information, and the tool will spit out the tags for you. Copy the tags and place them in the head section of your web pages. Here are a couple of these tools to choose from. By the way, you can also tell Google that your site targets a specific country within the Google Search Console, which is a subject we'll be looking at in the section of the course on Webmaster Consoles, when I talk about the basic console setup. So it's not hard to optimize pages for locations. It's really the same basic techniques you learned earlier, only using city and place names. So if location is important to you, you might want to take a few minutes now and review your site. Find ways that you can improve your location optimization. In this lesson, I'm going to talk about claiming your listing in the local directories. As I said in an earlier lesson, the search engines originally gathered business data from existing business directories, but they allow the business owners to grab control of these listings and modify them, adding and changing information. Most of these listings have not been claimed, but you really should claim yours. Start by searching for your business. You can sometimes find your business directly through the search engines and take control from there, but probably the easiest thing to do is to go to the search engine's local business promotional pages and begin by searching for your business. I found a business that hasn't yet taken control of their listing that I can use as an example, which of course is easy to do as most businesses haven't taken control.
If the system finds your business, then you'll be able to grab control of the business, you'll be able to claim the listing. I'm not going to follow through these processes, they're pretty straightforward. Once you've claimed your listing, you may have to wait for a postcard or perhaps a phone call so that you can confirm that you are actually in control of that business. If you can't find your business, you'll be given the option to add your business to the directory. And as I mentioned earlier, sometimes you can find your business in the search engines, then claim it directly from the listing. In this case, for instance, I found the business in Google. And if I scroll down to the bottom of the listing, I see this little "Are you the business owner?" link. And here in Bing, there's a little "Do you own this business?" link. So one way or another, claiming your listing is easy, and these listings are free, although there may be some charges if you upgrade the listing in some manner. So once you've claimed it, what do? You add as much information as possible, thinking of keywords, of course. The first thing you want to do is make sure that the address and contact numbers are all correct, and make sure that they exactly match what you show in your website, because the search engines use this information to help correlate listings with websites. You'll also want to make sure the URL shown in your business listing matches your current active website. You'll be able to add a business description, the payment methods you accept, and operating hours. Use as much space as you can in the description and make sure you get good keywords in there. Add as many photos as you can and even video where available. In fact, fill all the fields you can. Put as much information into your listings as possible. Fill in all fields and fill them in as fully as possible.
Take a few minutes now to get started. Go to the 3 major systems and see if your business is listed. If it is, claim the listing right away. If it isn't, then register it. There are various other things you can do to improve your chances of coming up in the local search results and to improve your listing when it does appear.
First, let's consider this common problem. You serve a large business area, but your business is actually located on the edge of the area. Let's say, for instance, you're a personal injury attorney based in a city just outside Denver. When people search for such a service, they almost certainly search using the major city name, even if they're in one of the outlying cities. So they quite likely won't search for personal injury attorney Lakewood or personal injury attorney Aurora, even if that's where they live. They're much more likely to search for personal injury attorney Denver. But what if your firm is in Lakewood or Aurora, even though you serve the entire Denver area? And most of your potential clients will be searching for a Denver firm. Well, here's your problem. Here's what people see when they search for personal injury attorney Denver. See that map? It focuses, not surprisingly, on Denver itself. The outlying cities are not even shown. A huge part of the local search ranking algorithm is, well, location. If you're in the wrong place, it's hard to get listed.
This is a real weakness in the local business search system, but that's the way it is, and it's frustrating for many businesses. You may be the top firm in your field, in your area, but if you're not close to the center of the metropolitan area, you may not even appear when people search for your services.
One way around this would be to move to the center of the area. This might seem extreme, and in many cases would be, but I'm sure there are cases in which it makes perfect sense. If you have to move offices anyway, location-based search results should at least factor into the decision.
And of course, sometimes people pretend to be closer to the center of the area than they really are. I know one woman whose financial services business ranks very well in her city, in the local search results, despite the fact that she moved out of the center a number of years ago. Most of her communications are via phone and email, so her physical location really doesn't matter. She just never bothered updating her Google listing and continues to rank highly.
You may also be able to help your local search ranking by optimizing your pages for organic search, as I explained in an earlier video. The search engines associate your local listing with your website. You're going to provide them with your URL. The better your site ranks in the organic results and the better optimized for your city, the better your local listing may do. So getting links from other sites pointing to your site with location keywords in the anchor text could be a very good thing. You might also want to make sure you get listed in as many other local directories as possible. The major search engines will see this information as they crawl those other directories, so it may help to push you up somewhat. I'll be talking about this subject in the following lessons. Finally, there are a couple of cool enhancements you can add to your Google local listings. First, there's Google Business View, which puts a 360-degree virtual tour of your business into your listing, something very nice if your business ambiance is important. This is an example of a real live business using this feature. In fact, this is part of an associated program, Business View for Hotels. And here's where you can learn more. Google has a partner program in which photographers go out to local businesses to film the virtual tours, and often also take a few static photos that can be used in your listing too. I've seen this service advertised for as little as $290. For businesses with lots of space, there's something called the Street View Partner Program. This is being used by amusement parks, malls, ski areas, race courses, and so on, to get Street View images into Google Maps. This is Street View imagery inside Google Maps taken at a local ski area. You can learn about this service here. Finally, there's Google Indoor Maps, which you can find out about here. The system allows searchers to look inside maps of large buildings, such as malls, airports, theatres, and museums. The user clicks on the building, and the indoor map appears, along with a vertical bar on the right side. Clicking on a number on the bar shows a different floor in the building.
This whole world of local listings is constantly expanding. Another example is events. Google gathers event information from Eventbrite and Eventful, for instance, and if it can correlate the event with a particular business based on the address, it drops event information into the local listing. So keep your eyes open and keep working on your business listings. The more active and more complete the listings, the more likely they are to be found and used. What we've looked at so far are the big national directories of local businesses, Google, Bing, and Yahoo. But there's another category you should probably list in too, the local focus directories. This is more important for some businesses than others, though all businesses can benefit to some degree.
This is very important in the restaurant business because all cities of any size have local restaurant directories, often associated with local newspapers and magazines. For example, if I had a quality restaurant in Denver, I'd definitely want to be listed in the 5280.com directory of restaurants. If I had a restaurant in London, I'd want to get listed in the Time Out London restaurant directory. I would want to be listed in TripAdvisor and Yelp too. Not only are these really valuable links, as you'll learn in the area of this course related to linking, these are what would be termed trusted links, but the directories themselves are popular and frequently used, so it's good to be in there for non-SEO purposes too. There are also local directories for events and amusements, so if my business fit into one of those categories in some way, I'll be trying to get listed in those places as well. Then there are directories of local businesses that can be found in many cities, although these things do seem to be dying out somewhat. They were very popular in the early days of the internet, but they've been superseded to a great degree by the search engines and directories such as TripAdvisor and Yelp, but you may still run into them. Search for your city name and the word directory, and you may well find a few in your area still functioning.
Getting in these additional directories can often bring you helpful links. The directory pages sometimes turn up in the search engines, and they can often generate traffic regardless of SEO benefits. I discussed the whole content is king thing earlier in the course. As you know, I find that statement very misleading, but if anything in SEO is king, it's links. Because without links, you cannot compete in the search engines, and with great links, even sites with mediocre content can succeed. In this section of the course, you're going to learn why links are so important. In fact, links are the very cornerstone of modern search engine technology, as you'll discover. I'll explain the 5 ways that links help you, and the 2 types of links, what I call real and fake links. Linking is so critical that this section is just the start, but by the end of this section, you'll understand why links are so critical and be ready to move on to the details of how links function in SEO. In a sense, linking is the most important part of SEO. In an earlier lesson, I explained that, contrary to popular perceptions, content is not king. In fact, if any component of SEO can be said to be king, it's linking. Why? Because without links, your site cannot succeed in the search engines, regardless of how good your content may be. As you'll learn, the search engines use links as a measure of the value of your site, in effect as a measure of the value of the content on your site. So without links, it really doesn't matter how great your site is, you're not getting anywhere in the search engines.
But isn't content a way to get links to your site? Sure, building great content can be a really good way to get links to a site. But regardless, it's the links doing the work. Imagine two websites, one with great content but few links, the other with mediocre content but plenty of links. Which wins the ranking game? The latter, the one with the worst content. In fact, there are two problems with the build great content and they will come idea. Firstly, not every little company can build great content. It can be very expensive, in fact, to build such great content that all of a sudden people are going to start linking to you en masse. Often in the SEO business, consultants and SEO bloggers state that your site needs to become an authority for your subject area. Come on, really? Every pizza parlor needs to become an authority on pizza? Every violin store needs to become a world authority on the violin? This just isn't plausible for most businesses.
Secondly, it isn't even necessary in many cases. It's entirely possible for a small local violin store, for instance, to rank extremely well in the search engines using some of the link building techniques I'm going to explain, without becoming an authority site for violins.
But creating links is in many ways the most difficult part of SEO. Remember, we can break SEO into two pieces, on-page and off-page. On-page means the things you do to your own pages, the things we've looked at already in this course. Building content, adding keywords to titles and URLs, using structured data markup, ensuring keywords are scattered throughout your content, and so on. Off-page animation, on the other hand, means creating links on other people's websites, pointing back to your site. You're going to learn in the next few lessons why you need to do that. But let me just tell you for the moment that links on other websites pointing to your site are critical, and your site cannot succeed in SEO without them.
But if the links are on other sites, not your own, how on earth do you do that? That's the crux of the problem, and why linking is so difficult and frustrating. On-page optimization is totally under your control. It's your site after all. You can decide to do whatever you want as far as keywording and coding go. With off-page, with linking, you're at the mercy of others. You need the assistance and cooperation of other people, people who have websites on which you want to place links. Linking is the most frustrating and difficult part of SEO. Much of on-page optimization is cheap or free. It's merely a matter of making the right decisions about how you're going to code your site, then coding the site correctly while you build. But when site owners come to the link building stage, they often freeze, like the proverbial deer in the headlights. And over the years in my consulting business, the most common problem new clients have is links, or lack thereof. It doesn't have to be that way, though, as you'll learn when you view the following lessons. Before Google came along, there were search directories. Yahoo was the big one back in the day, and there were simple search engines. I've explained elsewhere in this course the difference between search engines and search directories, but what do I mean by simple search engines?
The early web search engines, such as JumpStation, WebCrawler, and Lycos, starting back in late 1993 and 1994, provided indexes of the content of web pages. They used search bots to collect web pages and index the content of those pages, and in most cases attempted to rank the search results when presenting them to the user. Over the next several years, a number of very popular search engines appeared, such as AltaVista, Excite, Inktomi, and Ask Jeeves. But all these systems ranked web pages based on what was inside the web pages, without regard to links pointing to those pages. It wasn't until 1998 that Google began operating, and it did so with a revolutionary concept. The idea that the search engine should not just look at what was in a page, but also look at the links pointing to the page, where those links came from, and the text in the links. Actually, the founders of Google weren't really the first people to think of this idea. In fact, Robin Lee, working for a subsidiary of Dow Jones, built a search engine called RankDex back in 1996. And some of the concept of checking links was incorporated into a system called the World Wide Web worm. However, it was Google that got the idea commercialized first and became the world's most popular search engine. A couple of years after Google started operations, Robin Lee started Baidu, which is now China's top search engine and the world's fourth most popular website after Google, Facebook, and YouTube.
In some ways, such links can be more reliable information than the pages themselves. After all, if the author of a page says that the page has the best information on the web related to rabbit hutches, that doesn't carry much weight. But if other people link to the page saying it's the best information on rabbit hutches, well, that means something much more.
In fact, links were so important to the Google concept that Google's original name was backrub, a sort of pun on backlinks, links pointing back to a website from other sites. And you rub my back and I'll rub yours. This is the original backrub logo, in fact. You may hear that link building is dead, but don't be misled. The people writing these linking is dead articles may mean various different things, from the old link building methods don't work anymore to buy my content services. Some linking strategies don't work anymore, but the simple fact is Google does, and all the major search engines in fact do, use incoming links to help rank search results. It's just a basic demonstrable fact. Here's one way we know this fact. As you'll learn later, Google is very concerned about the quality of links and about rooting out people who are trying to manipulate search results through the use of links. If links didn't matter, people couldn't manipulate search results through linking, and Google wouldn't care.
So ignore the hype and nonsense. Links were the Google revolution. They're still incredibly important, and it's hard to imagine a future without the major search engines using information they gather from links. Links help your website in 5 different ways. We'll be going into more detail in subsequent lessons, but I thought it would be helpful to start with a summary of these different advantages.
Firstly, as you learned in earlier lessons, links help the search engines find your site. If you want your site indexed by the search engines, the most reliable way to ensure that happens is to have links on sites that the search engines have already indexed. They'll see those links, then follow them over to your site and crawl and index your site. Next, the links pointing to a page on your site will tell the search engines what the page is about. If a search engine sees a link with anchor text saying, "Buy rabbit hutches here," the search engine can be pretty sure that the reference page sells rabbit hutches. Links also tell search engines how important the page is. The more links pointing to the page, the better. Think of links as votes for the page. But different links provide different vote values. A link from a major popular site is more valuable, in effect provides more votes, than a link from a site that is itself unpopular. Also, the more links pointing to your site, the more frequently it's likely to be indexed. More links means the search engines trip over your site, as it were, more frequently, and more incoming links means the site is more important and thus more worthy of frequent indexing. All these things help your site in the search ranks. Search engines use links to find your pages, learn what the pages are about, and learn how important they are. But there's one more advantage to links, something we often forget about when focusing on SEO. They can actually bring people to your site, which of course is the original purpose of links.